Okay, picture this. It is a scenario that I think every single person listening has endured at least once, honestly. It's the stuff of nightmares. You have just landed in Hawaii.
Oh no, rough start.
The roughest.
Oh.
It is like 10 a.m. You've been on a plane for 6, maybe 10 hours. You are exhausted. Your skin is dry. You smell a little bit like recycled airplane cabin air. But, you are mentally ready for paradise. You drag your bags to the hotel. You walk up to the front desk. You give them your biggest weary smile, and they hit you with the sentence that just destroys your soul.
Your room will be ready at 4 p.m.
The gap.
The dreaded gap.
It is the travel equivalent of purgatory.
Yeah.
You have 3 giant suitcases. You are dressed for, I don't know, Seattle weather.
In Honolulu heat.
In Honolulu heat. And you are technically homeless for 6 hours. Or, let's flip the script. You check out at 11 a.m., but your flight home isn't until 10:00 p.m. What do you do?
Well, historically, you suffer. You sit in the lobby staring at your phone, trying not to fall asleep in an armchair while hotel staff vacuum around you.
Yeah.
Or you try to drag a roller bag across the sand, which, by the way, is a physics experiment that never, ever ends well.
Exactly. And that is exactly why we are diving into today's stack of materials. We are looking at a company called Halia Private Tours on Oahu. They claim to have solved this very specific, very painful friction point. We've got their service descriptions, their pricing models, a fascinating set of customer reviews, and a folder of photos that tell a pretty interesting story.
It's a deep dive into a concept they call the luggage transfer tour.
Which, I have to admit, sounds a little dry.
Yeah.
Luggage transfer sounds like a logistics company moving boxes, not a, vacation experience.
It does, but that's the trick. The mission here, if you look at their philosophy, is to completely reframe the psychology of that first or last day. They want to turn dead travel time, that's 6 hours of sitting in a lobby, into island time.
So instead of sitting on your suitcase, you are essentially starting your vacation the second you walk out of baggage claim.
Precisely. You're reclaiming a day that you usually just write off.
Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this, because my first thought, looking at the headline, was pure skepticism. Is this just a glorified airport shuttle? Because I can get an Uber for $50, but looking at the source material, the hardware seems different.
It is significantly different, and this is the first key insight. The core differentiator is right there in the name.
Luggage.
Luggage.
Huh?
Think about a standard Uber or even a standard private tour sedan.
They hate luggage.
They hate it. You show up with 4 people, 4 checked bags, golf clubs, and a stroller. The driver's going to cancel on you. You see it happen at curbsides all the time. These guys explicitly market the fact that their vans are designed for you and your stuff at the same time.
Yeah, I was looking at the capacity details in the spec sheet. It says they can handle up to 7 guests. And the luggage allowance, it basically mirrors airline rules. 1 checked bag, 1 carry-on, and 1 personal item per person.
Which is massive. I mean, that's 21 pieces of luggage if you max it out.
And where does it all go?
Well, that's the transfer part of the tour. The bags remain safely stowed on board the vehicle while you are out exploring. You aren't checking them into a locker at the airport, which barely exists anymore. You aren't leaving them with a hotel bellman and then backtracking to get them. They are with you, but out of your way.
Okay, that is convenient. But we have to address the elephant in the room, which is the price tag. I was looking at the rate card, and I admit I did a double take.
It's not cheap.
No, for a half day, which is 6 hours, it starts at $799. A full 9-hour day is $899. And the long day, which is 12 hours, is just shy of $1,000 at $999.
This is where we need to apply some, economy of scale logic to understand the value proposition.
Okay, break it down for me.
This is a flat rate for the vehicle. So let's say you are 2 couples traveling together. Suddenly, that $899 for a full day isn't just a transfer. It's about $180 per person.
Okay, that feels more manageable.
Now compare that to the alternative. If you have 5 people and luggage, you need 2 Ubers or a massive van to get to the hotel. That's cost 1. Then you can't get into your room, so you store your bags. Hotels sometimes charge for that, or at least you're tipping heavily. Then you want to go see Pearl Harbor or the North Shore. You need 2 more Ubers to get there and 2 more to get back.
And you're wasting time waiting for those rides, coordinating pickups, hoping the surge pricing isn't, crazy.
Exactly. When you factor in the cost of separate transport, the luggage storage fees, and the sheer value of your time, Remember, you spent thousands to be in Hawaii. Your hourly rate of enjoyment should be high. The premium for the private tour starts to look a lot more like a rational investment than a luxury splurge.
It's purchasing efficiency.
It's purchasing sanity.
Speaking of sanity, I want to circle back to that long day option, the 12-hour tour. I found a fascinating little nugget in their FAQ section about the strategy behind this one. It's not just for people who really love sightseeing.
Oh, God, the red eye strategy. I loved this detail. It's so smart.
It's brilliant, right? Walk us through it.
So it addresses a biological problem. If your flight leaves at 10 p.m. and you have to be out of your Airbnb or hotel at 10 or 11 a.m., you have a 12-hour gap. That is an eternity. If you sit around a pool or a lobby, you're going to be groggy, bored, and stiff, but not tired enough to actually sleep on the plane.
Right, you're in that weird zombie state.
So you use the tour to strategically exhaust yourself. You hike Diamond Head, you swim at the North Shore, you walk the botanical gardens, you burn calories, you get sun.
Catch some serious sleep was the phrase they used in the copy.
It's strategic exhaustion. You get dropped off at the terminal, you've showered at a beach park, you're fed, and your body is physically ready to shut down. You wake up at home. It turns the exhaustion into a tool rather than a side effect.
I love that. It's optimizing the misery of travel. Now, let's move away from the logistics, the money and the bags, and talk about the actual experience, because the other thing that jumps out from these documents is the phrase 100% private and custom.
Right. This is not a bus tour.
That's a really important distinction. We've all been on those shuttle buses where you have to stop at the macadamia nut gift shop for 45 minutes because the driver gets kicked back even though nobody wants to be there.
The hostage situation tour.
Exactly. Please let us leave. The source material here emphasizes that this is the opposite. It's choose your own adventure. And when you look at the visual evidence provided, the photos from actual tours, you see a massive range in vibe. It's not just one type of traveler.
That's what struck me too. The photo gallery is really telling. It acts as, proof of life for their claims of customization. It's not stock photography. These are real people doing very different things.
Let's look at a few of these. There was one photo titled Family Turtle Time. Describe what we're seeing there.
So this is a classic multi-generational shot. You've got the grandparents, the parents, and the kids all standing on the sand. And right there in the foreground, completely unbothered, is a massive Hawaiian green sea turtle.
What I liked about that photo is the grandparents. They aren't dressed for a trek.
No, they're in resort wear. Sandals, button-downs, they look comfortable.
Which speaks to the accessibility aspect. It shows that they can deliver those wildlife moments without it being an endurance test for the older members of the group.
But then, completely on the other end of the spectrum, you have the photo that made me laugh out loud.
The dinosaurs.
And dinosaurs. It's this majestic green valley, looks like Kualoa Ranch, which is where they filmed Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And in the foreground, someone, presumably the guest, is holding up two plastic T-Rex toys, so the forced perspective makes it look like they are roaring at the mountains.
It's so silly, but it tells you so much about the tone.
It does. It tells you the guides are playful. This isn't a stiff, listen to my lecture about botany tour. It's customized to be fun. If you want to take silly perspective photos with dinosaur toys, the guide is probably the one directing the shot.
And then you have the third vibe, which was labeled Romantic Private Couples Tours.
Total mood shift.
Completely. It's just a couple sitting on a weathered wooden bench looking out at the ocean. I think that's Chinaman's Hat Island in the distance. No crowds, no selfie sticks in the way, just quiet.
That contrast is the key takeaway for the customization point. The same service, the same van, the same company that facilitates the chaotic dinosaur photo also facilitates this moment of total serenity. It reinforces that the vehicle is just the enabler. The content is entirely up to you.
So let's talk about where that vehicle actually goes. We mentioned Kualoa and the beach, but the source material lists a ton of potential stops. And I think we need to talk about how a luggage tour changes the logistics of visiting these places.
Well, you can't talk about Oahu without talking about Pearl Harbor. That is the classic stop.
But Pearl Harbor is notoriously strict about bags. I remember reading that you can't bring anything in, not even a purse.
Exactly. It's a security regulation. You can't drag a suitcase onto the USS Arizona Memorial. With this tour, the van is your locker. The driver stays with the vehicle and the bags while you go in. It solves the access problem completely.
There's a picture here related to that, which I think is really important for parents listening. It shows a kid looks maybe 8 or 9 playing on the gun mount of the battleship Missouri.
It's a great shot. The kid looks engaged, not bored. I think people worry that historical sites will be a drag for children, but this suggests the tour can be paced to keep it interesting for them too. Maybe you do an hour at the battleship, then immediately head to the beach. You control the rhythm.
Speaking of rhythm, let's talk about the nature stops. The text mentions Diamond Head, though they note you need reservations now, which is a good logistical flag for anyone planning a trip, and the Halona Blowhole. But I was drawn to the waterfall image.
The one with a group of seniors?
Yes.
That looks like Waimea Valley. It's paved.
Mhm.
Again, it connects back to that accessibility point. You don't always have to bushwhack through the jungle to see the beauty. A private guide knows which waterfalls have paved paths and which ones require scrambling over rocks. They match the destination to the group's physical ability.
And for the culturally curious, there's that shot of someone feeding a bird right out of their hand at the Byodo Temple.
That's a stunning spot. It's a replica of a Japanese temple tucked away in the Valley of the Temples. It's very peaceful. The fact that the source highlights the interactive moment feeding the wild birds shows they value those smaller, quiet interactions just as much as the big look at the battleship moments.
Okay, I have to pivot to my personal favorite part of travel. And honestly, the reason I travel, the food.
Always the food.
The source text explicitly lists Leonard's Bakery, Giovanni's Shrimp, Matsumoto's Shave Ice, and coffee farms. Now, you could just Uber to these places, but
Have you ever tried to eat Giovanni's shrimp plate in the back of an Uber?
I can't say that I have.
It's garlic, butter, and oil everywhere. The driver will kick you out.
Good point.
With a private tour, you can basically turn the transfer into a rolling 6-hour gluttony tour. You stop at Leonard's for hot malasadas, which, by the way, if you've just gotten off a long flight, the sugar rush of a hot, fluffy malasada is medicinal.
It's necessary. It resets the body clock.
Then you cruise up the coast, grab shrimp, sit on the tailgate or a picnic bench, maybe hit the coffee farm to wake up. It allows you to sample the island's food culture without the stress of parking or navigating.
It sounds incredible.
The text mentions you can add a stand-up paddle or kayak excursion specifically to connect with the environment. It mentions looking for sea turtles, but doing it in a way that respects their habitat. It's for the traveler who wants to feel like they aren't just consuming the destination, but participating in it.
So we've got the van, the bags, the food, the sights. But let's be real for a second. We've all hired services that looked great on paper and then the vibe was off. A private tour lives or dies by the guide. You can be in a Bentley, but if the driver's a grump, it's a bad day.
Absolutely. The human element is the single biggest variable.
One review says, Michael was a terrific tour guide, customized the tour and made recommendations. Another one says, he knew more about this place than we could possibly remember.
That second point is the real value prop of an expert guide. Knew more than we could remember.
Right.
You can drive yourself to a lookout and say, oh, that's a pretty rock. But a guide tells you the Hawaiian legend of the rock, the geological history, and why it matters to the locals. Suddenly, you aren't just looking at scenery, you're understanding a place.
But what stands out to me in those reviews is the emphasis on listening. He customized our tour just for us. It confirms that the marketing promise isn't just fluff.
It's the difference between a driver and a guide. A driver takes you from A to B. A guide reads the room, they see the kids are getting cranky. Maybe we skip the next lookout and go get ice cream. They see the grandparents are tired. Let's do a scenic drive instead of a walk. That adaptability is what you're paying for.
The journey is just as important as the destination, which, let's be honest, sounds like a cliché poster you'd see in a dentist's office.
It does. It's usually an empty platitude.
But in this context, strictly regarding airport transfers, it's actually a radical business model.
It is. Because usually the journey from the airport is garbage. It is something to be endured. They are trying to flip the script so that the transfer is the start of the experience.
Grounding us back in reality for a second, there are 2 photos in the stack that really drive home where this service fits in. There's one shot looking through an airport window at a plain nose classic, I'm waiting for my flight vibe, and another of the Pride of America cruise ship at sunset.
Those images serve as the bookends. They represent the stress points, the busy terminal with the announcements and the crowds, the massive cruise port, which is basically a cattle call of thousands of people.
Right.
This service exists to bridge the gap between those industrial, chaotic transit hubs and the paradise you see in the other photos, the turtles and waterfalls.
It's the bridge. I like that. So let's try to synthesize all this. We've looked at the price, the luggage capacity, the specific stops. If you had to summarize the true value proposition here beyond just it's a van, what is the takeaway?
I think it's a travel hack in the truest sense of the word. You are reclaiming time.
Buying time.
If you take a standard vacation, you often lose day 1 and day 7 to logistics. You write them off, oh, that's travel day.
All right.
By using a service like this, combining the transfer with the tour, you are effectively buying yourself 2 extra days of vacation.
That's a great way to frame it.
For a family of 4 or 5, the cost pays off in memories and, frankly, in a lack of arguing.
No fighting over who has to wash the bags while everyone else goes to the bathroom.
Priceless.
And no dragging a suitcase through the sand while trying to look cool.
Also priceless.
It really makes you think about how we plan. Here's the question I want to leave you with today. Based on everything we've read, we spend so much time planning our hotels and our activities, meticulously researching restaurants, but we treat transportation as just a utility way to get from point A to point B.
And after.
Yeah. Exactly. But if we viewed the drive itself as the final chapter of the adventure or the opening scene, how would that change the way we pack, the way we plan, the way we feel when we finally get home?
It's a complete shift in mindset. It stops being transit and starts being travel.
Something to chew on before your next trip to the islands. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of luggage transfer tours. Maybe we'll see you on the beach, hopefully without your suitcases.